Look up at the sky, before we get into any charts or stars, I want you to focus on a very specific physical sensation.
Okay.
Think about being in a car at a red light. The engine's just idling, that low hum. You're completely static, but your foot is hovering right over the gas pedal. And then the light turns green, you stomp on it. That split second, that lurch, where you go from absolute stillness to sudden, violent motion.
Ah, yeah.
That is what we are talking about today.
Physics calls that breaking inertia. But the ancient seers, the rishis, sitting by their fires thousands of years ago, they had a different name for it. They called it Ashwini.
So we're looking at the very first slice of the zodiac today. And honestly, it's good to be indoors for this one. I really appreciate you meeting me here at this place. I mean, the rain is absolutely hammering against the glass.
Oh, yeah.
But in here, it feels like the clock stopped around, I don't know, 1910? Is that old leather I smell?
It is Café Karma, my friend. It smells of old books, roasted beans, and perhaps a little bit of history. The clocks here do not stop. They just, well, they hesitate.
No.
It is the perfect Viennese Gemütlichkeit. A good place to sit and talk about beginnings, because that is what Ashwini is. It's the beginning of everything.
So let's set the stage properly then. Most people listening know their zodiac sign. They know if they're an Aries, a Taurus, a Scorpio. That's the standard system.
The newspaper horoscopes, yes.
Right. But we aren't talking about those 12 signs today. We're zooming in way closer. We're talking about Nakshatras. Why do we even need a whole different system?
Shout. Look at it this way. Imagine the sky as a giant clock face. The 12 signs, Aries, Taurus, and so on. That is the hour hand.
Okay. It's slow.
It moves slowly. It tells you the general season of the soul. The sun stays in a sign for 30 days. That is a long time. It is broad strokes. But the moon is the minute hand.
It moves much faster.
Much faster. The moon circles the earth in about 27 days. So Vedic astrology divides the sky into 27 sectors to track the moon's movement. These are the nakshatras.
Which you can translate as lunar mansions, right?
Lunar mansions, perfect.
Okay, I like that image.
Yeah.
So the moon is basically checking into a different hotel room every single night.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And every hotel room has a different landlord, a different decor, a different energy. Ashwini is the very first room. It is the penthouse of Aries. It spans from 0 degrees to just over 13 degrees.
So it's the Big Bang sector.
It is the cosmic ignition. If you imagine the universe before creation, it was a sleeping ocean. Potential, but no kinetic energy. Nothing was happening. Ashwini is the first wave. It is the refusal to sit still.
Which is why the symbol isn't a person or even a ram. Like in Aries, it's an animal.
An animal known for speed.
The horse's head.
Ashwa, the stallion.
Now, when you say horse, I think we need to clarify. Are we talking about like a plow horse, a nice pony giving rides at a kid's birthday party?
Gibit, no, please. We're not talking about a pony. The Sanskrit word ashwa implies horsepower in the rawest sense.
Right.
Think of a Ferrari engine. Think of a stallion in mid-gallop. Muscles rippling, veins standing out, sweat flying. It is the star of transport.
Transport. That's an interesting way to frame it. Not just running, but moving something from A to B.
Precisely. Ashwini is the engine that moves us from the unmanifested world, the world of ideas, dreams, plans, into the manifested world of action.
The spark plug.
It is the spark plug. Without Ashwini, you can have the best plan in the world, but it just sits on your desk gathering dust. Ashwini is the force that makes you stand up and say, now.
It's the anti-procrastination energy.
It is pure impulse. There is no past in Ashwini. They do not look in the rearview mirror. And honestly, they do not look very far down the road either.
Right.
They only look at the immediate step in front of them, like a sprinter in the starting blocks. They are not thinking about the medal ceremony. They are thinking about the explosion when the gun goes off.
That sounds exhilarating, but also exhausting. I mean, living your life at the speed of a starting gun.
It can be, but before we diagnose the problems, we have to understand the source. The mythology behind Ashwini is, well, it's a bit of a soap opera, a cosmic Geschichte, as we say here.
I love a good myth. Let's hear it.
It starts with the sun, Surya. He's the king. And he has a wife, Sanjana. Now, Sanjana's name means consciousness or intellect.
So you have the soul, the sun, married to the intellect. A power couple.
On paper, yes, a power couple. But in reality, Surya was too much. He was burning hot, radiating this overwhelming, blinding glory. Sanjana was literally being scorched by his presence.
She couldn't take the heat?
She couldn't take the heat. It was suffocating her. So she did something that is, well, it is one of the most controversial moves in all of Vedic mythology.
What'd she do? Divorce him?
No. She cloned herself.
Wait, what?
She used her powers to create a shadow self called Chaya. She looked exactly like Sanjana. And Sanjana left this shadow wife behind to take care of her husband and her children, and she just ran away to Earth.
Hang on. That's messed up. She catfished the sun with her own shadow. She left a clone to deal with her toxic husband while she took a vacation.
It seems incredibly irresponsible, yes. But think about the symbolism. The intellect, Sanjana, could not handle the direct intensity of the soul, Surya. It needed distance. So she fled to a meadow on Earth and disguised herself as a mare, a female horse.
She just wanted to graze. A simpler life.
Exactly, away from the fire.
Okay, so she's hiding out as a horse, but I'm guessing the sun finds out. He's the sun. He sees everything.
Eventually, yes. He realized the woman next to him was a shadow. And when he looked down and saw his wife grazing in a field, he didn't get angry. He didn't rain down fire. He got focused.
I feel like focused is a polite way of putting it.
He transformed himself into a stallion. And he came down to Earth to find her. The myth says he chased her in the meadow. It was a galloping romance, a stampede of passion. And from this union, 2 horses running at full speed, twins were born.
The Ashwini Kumaras.
Yes. But here is the detail that matters. The ancient texts are very, very specific about this. They were not born the normal way. They were born from the nostrils of the mare.
The nostril. Okay, I have to stop you there. Why the nose? That seems incredibly specific and, frankly, a little weird. Is that just random myth stuff, or does it mean something?
In Vedic science, nothing is random. Think about it. What is the nose for?
Smelling, breathing.
Breathing. Prana. When a baby is born, what is the very first sign of independent life?
The first cry. The first breath.
That sharp intake of air, that gasp, that is Ashwini. The Ashwini Kumars aren't just horses. They are the breath of God. They are the force that pulls oxygen into the blood and makes the heart beat.
Oh, wow.
Life begins with that inhalation, and it ends with the last exhalation. Ashwini is that connection.
That actually makes a lot of sense. It connects back to that rush we talked about, that feeling of fresh air hitting your lungs after being underwater. It's vitality.
Exactly. It is prana, life force. And because they are born of prana, the Ashwini twins have a very specific job in the universe. They are the physicians to the gods.
We're doctors.
The best doctors. But they are not the kind of doctors who tell you to eat more fiber and come back in 6 months. They are emergency medicine specialists, trauma surgeons.
Paramedics of the cosmos.
They travel in a golden chariot that moves faster than thought. They are the Amazon Prime of healing. Same-day delivery of miracles.
What kind of miracles?
The sources describe them as performing Raziana rejuvenation. They can make the old young again. They can make the blind see. They represent the power to fix things now.
I like that. But usually when we hear about divine physicians, they're these gentle, benevolent figures. You've made Ashwini energy sound a bit wild.
Oh, they are wild.
Yeah.
And this brings us to the legend of Sage Dadichi. This story is, well, if you thought the nose birth was strange, buckle up. This is the ultimate heist movie of the Vedas.
A heist movie?
It involves a forbidden secret called the Madhu Vidya, the honey doctrine.
The honey doctrine.
Sounds sweet. It is the secret knowledge of immortality, the knowledge that turns the bitterness of existence into bliss. And the Ashwini twins wanted this knowledge.
But I'm guessing there was a catch.
There's always a catch. The sage Dadichi, who held the secret, was under a terrible curse from Indra, the king of the gods.
What was the curse?
Indra was jealous. He warned the sage, if you teach this secret to anyone, I will cut off your head.
High stakes. So that's it. Dead end.
For most people, yes. You don't mess with Indra. But Ashwini energy does not recognize dead ends. If there is a wall, Ashwini blows a hole through it. They came to the sage and said, we have a plan. It is risky, it is bloody, but it will work.
I'm almost afraid to ask. What was the plan?
They said, Sage, we are master surgeons. We will cut off your head first.
Excuse me. Their solution to Indra will cut off your head was, we'll do it for him.
We will cut off your human head and preserve it in a jar. Then we will find a horse, cut off its head, and attach the horse head to your neck.
They proposed a preemptive decapitation and a species swap. That is absolutely unhinged.
It is brilliant. They reasoned that if the Dadichi taught them the secret through the horse's mouth, Indra would see it. He'd come down in a fury and chop off the horse head. The curse would be fulfilled.
The head would fall.
The head would fall. And then, once Indra left, satisfied, the twins would simply take the Dadichi's original human head out of the jar and sew it back on.
That is, wow, it's like something out of a horror movie. But it worked.
It worked perfectly. Everyone won, except maybe the horse. But that is a detail the myths tend to gloss over.
That is wild. But beyond the gore, what is this actually telling us about the Ashwini personality?
It tells us that Ashwini is radical. It's resourceful. It does not care about the rules or the establishment Indra. It represents surgical precision and the willingness to take extreme risks to gain wisdom.
So if you have this energy, you're the person who asks for forgiveness, not permission.
Always. You're the one who hacks the system. And you find the loophole that no one else sees because you just move faster. The sources mention a specific Shakti, or power, for Ashwini, Shirovyapani Shakti.
And that translates to?
The power to quickly reach things or attain objectives immediately.
This sounds great in a world that values productivity. We all want to be the fast, rule-breaking genius. But surely there's a downside. You can't just sprint forever.
And here we stir the coffee and look at the dark sediment at the bottom of the cup. This is the core conflict, the paradox of its ruling planet.
Right. Okay, let's break that down. Ashwini is in the sign of Aries. Aries is ruled by Mars. Mars is the gas pedal energy drive aggression.
Yes, Mars says go. But the Nakshatra itself, the lunar mansion, is ruled by Ketu.
Ketu, the south node of the moon.
Correct. And in mythology, Ketu is the headless body. He is the monk. He represents detachment, spirituality, dissolution, leaving things behind.
Wait, so you have Mars saying, conquer the world, win the race, and you have Ketu saying, none of this is real, let's go meditate in a cave.
Imagine a monk driving a race car.
That is a recipe for a crash.
It is a very volatile combination. The Ashwini native has this immense Mars impulse to start things. A new business, a new relationship, a new hobby. They hit the gas. They are doing 200 miles per hour.
And then
Halfway down the track, the Ketu energy kicks in.
Yeah.
They suddenly feel detached.
The existential crisis hits.
Exactly. They think, is this it? Why am I running? I am bored. What is the point? And they just walk away.
They ghost their own lives.
They do.
Yeah.
They are the masters of the start, but the finish is very, very difficult for them. They'll run a marathon at full sprint, and then at mile 20, they stop to look at a flower and decide running is pointless.
I feel like I know so many people like this. It's not just like an attention span thing. It feels deeper. A spiritual dissatisfaction with the mundane.
It is. Remember the symbol, the horse. A horse is powerful, but it's also skittish. It can be spooked easily. Ashwini energy is nervous energy. It vibrates at a very high frequency.
The sources mention they have a pranic quality, like they're just vibrating with life force.
Yes. They are often healers, even if they aren't doctors. Just being around them can wake you up. They're like this strong espresso we are drinking. They break stagnation.
Right.
If you are stuck in a rut, call your Ashwini friend. They will not listen to your complaining. They will drag you out of the house and make you do something.
No warm-up phase. That was in the material.
No warm-up. They wake up ready. But the challenge for the listener who might have this energy is the burnout. If you sprint everywhere, you eventually collapse.
So what's the lesson here? If Ashwini is the cosmic start button, how do you keep the machine running without blowing a fuse? How do you keep the monk in the race car from driving off a cliff?
The lesson is in the reins. The challenge is not to kill the speed. You cannot ask an Ashwini person to slow down. They will wither. The challenge is to steer it.
Like taming a wild stallion.
Yes. If you let the horse run wild, it is destructive. It is a stampede of one. But if you can apply the Ketu wisdom, that spiritual insight, to guide the Mars energy, you become unstoppable. You become the surgeon who can operate for 12 hours because he is in a flow state.
It sounds like patience is the medicine they need, but it's the one they hate the most.
Oh, they hate it. Telling an Ashwini to be patient is like telling a fire not to burn. It is physically painful for them, but they must learn rhythm. They must learn that the breath, their source of power, has an inhalation and an exhalation. You cannot just inhale forever.
That's a really powerful image. You have to let the breath out. You have to let the momentum carry you sometimes without constantly pushing. Exactly. We've covered a lot here. The physics of starting, the catfishing wife, the head transplant heist, and the monk in the Ferrari.
It is a lot. And look at my cup. It is empty.
And that's very Ashwini, isn't it? The cup is empty, the energy's being consumed, and now we're looking for the next thing.
We are. And that leads us to a hint for what comes next. Because after the wild horse runs freely across the plains, eventually the energy has to change. It must be caught. It must be burdened.
Burdened. That sounds heavy.
It is heavy. The next nakshatra is Parani the bearer. It is ruled by Venus, but its deity is Yama, the god of death.
Wow. Okay, so we go from the physicians of the gods and the breath of life straight to the god of death.
From the first breath to the inevitable constraint of mortality, from the open field to the womb. But that is a story for another cup of coffee.
I can't wait. Before we go, what's the takeaway for the listener right now? What do they do with this Ashwini energy?
They should appreciate the spark. Look at your life. Where is the stagnation? Where are you asleep? Ashwini asks you to wake up, to take that first terrifying step, to break the rule if the rule is keeping you stupid.
And maybe, just maybe, try not to cut anyone's head off in the process.
Let us try to avoid that, yes.
Yeah.
Just take a deep breath, an Ashwini breath. Inhale the possibility, and then step out into the rain.